Look in the mirror. The creature staring back at you is going extinct. Did you know your bones are 20% weaker than your ancestors from 10,000 years ago? When natural selection yields to artificial selection, when flesh dissolves into silicon, will we be gods ruling the stars? Or monsters imprisoned in our own paradise? Welcome to the Chronicles of the Future, the era of iron lungs, 0 to 100 years. In the year 2080, the last natural leaf fell in the silence of humanity. We mourned, but we did not accept death. With the magnificent arrogance of a species that never learned to bow, humans decided, if nature fails, we will rebuild it. Better, stronger, eternal. Forests of steel and silicon rose up. No pests, no withering. CO2 filtration efficiency 100 times that of real trees. A perfect solution for a dying planet. We thought we had saved the Earth, but we forgot one thing. Nature gives life for free, but machines require payment. And so, for the first time in history, breath became a luxury good. Air became a service. Look up at the skyscrapers, where the elite live in transparent glass cages at an altitude of 2,000 meters. They are breathing Class A pure gold air. It is 99.99% purified, supplemented with negative ions to stimulate the brain and the scent of extinct flowers. Their children grow up with rosy skin and superior intellect, but they have never known dust. And down on the ground, under the thick smog of high-tech slums, that is the world of the Class C package. The poor do not pay by the month, they pay by the breath. At public air refill stations, lines of people stretch endlessly with patched-up masks. The Class C package has enough oxygen to keep you from dying, but not enough purity to keep you healthy. It still contains nanodust, it still carries the smell of burning metal. Inequality is no longer measured by bank account balances. It is measured by the cleanliness of your lungs. But creation has its own way of punishment. The human body, a masterpiece of millions of years of evolution, began to reject this new world. Hospitals were flooded with strange cases. We called it glass lung syndrome. To withstand artificial air that was too dry and full of microplastics, the alveoli in the lungs of the younger generation began to harden, crystallizing like stone. We created clean air to live, but that very artificial cleanliness was killing our immune systems. Children born in this era possess a fragile and sickly beauty. Their skin is translucent, revealing every vein. They are literally incubator creatures. A natural breeze carrying pollen, once a symbol of spring, is now a deadly poison to them. We have turned ourselves into prisoners, trapped within the very civilization we created. And more terrifying than disease is the silence of submission. Who holds the button for those mechanical forests? Who owns the codes to the giant air filtration stations? That person holds the power of life and death over all humanity. There is no need for riot police, no need for guns or prisons. When a sector shows signs of rebellion, when Class C workers demand equality, the government simply performs a simple operation: reduce the oxygen pressure in that area by 10%. Just 10%. Enough to cause dizziness, enough to cause panic, enough to extinguish all will to resist. Compliance is re-established immediately. Absolute power now lies in the right to turn the breath of millions on and off. Humanity stands at the crossroads of destiny. Technology has failed. Flesh lungs are no longer good enough. Society is polarized to the extreme. The environment has become toxic to this very flesh and blood body. We realized that, to survive, we could not change the Earth any further. We had to change ourselves. If the environment is no longer suitable for the body, then we must discard this body. That was when the craziest idea, and also the only salvation, was proposed. A global grand surgery. The era of biological humans ends. The era of Homo sapiens technicus, the technological man, begins. The age of replicas, 100 to 1,000 years. The 22nd century dawned not with the bang of bombs, but with the silent snip of genetic editing enzymes. We declared war on the randomness of nature, and we won. Cancer? Eradicated. Alzheimer's? Nothing more than a frightening fairy tale told to children. The congenital defects that haunted humanity for hundreds of thousands of years vanished in just a few generations. CRISPR technology, once the privilege of top-secret laboratories, became as cheap and ubiquitous as a smartphone. For the first time in history, giving birth was no longer about waiting for God's gift. It became a design process, a construction contract. Parents no longer prayed for their children to be healthy. They programmed them to be healthy. And from health, humanity's bottomless greed quickly shifted to a new desire: perfection. Imagine you are a parent in the 24th century. Would you dare let your child be born with average height, average intelligence, and a risk of nearsightedness, while the neighbor's child is designed to be a genius with eagle eyes and the muscles of an Olympic athlete? You wouldn't dare. Because in this new world, being normal is considered a disability. Being natural is considered negligence. And so, a genetic arms race began. We deleted the baldness gene. We eliminated the obesity gene. We tweaked the intelligence gene to its maximum potential. Humans began to shed the rough, imperfect shell of their ancestors to don the mantle of demigods. Those who insisted on keeping their natural genome, the originals, quickly became the underclass. They were weaker, slower, and uglier by the new standards. They were pushed to the fringes of society, becoming living specimens in historical reserves, evidence of a chaotic era long past. But as we reached the year 2500, a chilling truth began to emerge. When everyone has the right to choose the best traits, everyone chooses exactly the same ones. Everyone wants the golden ratio face. Everyone wants to be 1.90 meters tall. Everyone wants flawless skin and the deep blue eyes of the ocean. Diversity, the most precious gift that evolution took 4 billion years to cultivate, was wiped out by us in just a few centuries. Look at the crowds on the streets of the third millennium. It is a sight both magnificent and terrifying. Millions of people pass each other, yet they look like siblings. Faces sculpted like statues, but cold and soulless like mass-produced dolls on an industrial assembly line. Individuality vanished. Art declined, because art is born from pain, from difference, from the flaws of the soul. But here, no one suffers and no one is different. Humanity has fallen into its own uncanny valley. We look in the mirror and no longer see ourselves. We only see a copy of billions of others. And nature, as always, held a final trump card. By eliminating genetic diversity in exchange for perfection, humanity inadvertently turned itself into a monoculture wheat field. We are strong when standing alone, but incredibly fragile when standing together. A uniform genome means a uniform weakness. In the year 2800, red alerts sounded across the globe. A new virus variant emerged. In the past, genetic diversity would have allowed a portion of the population to be immune and survive. But now, one person's immune system is identical to another's. If the virus can kill one, it can kill them all. Panic engulfed the perfect megacities. The beautiful gods realized they were standing on the brink of extinction faster than their weak ancestors ever did. Perfection was the very glass coffin we had locked ourselves in. Facing the risk of total erasure, the Supreme Genetic Council made a painful but inevitable decision. If unity is death, then division is the path to life. We can no longer be a single human species. We must tear humanity apart. We must force groups of people to migrate to different extreme environments: deep underground, the ocean floor, deserts, and distant planets. Only harsh environmental pressures can force our genome to mutate and diversify once again. The era of unity ends in fear. The door opens for the era of divergence. The time of the new human species begins. The era of divergence, 10,000 to 100,000 years. Silence. That was the dominant sound of Earth for 10,000 years following the collapse event. The brilliant civilization of the genetic gods vanished into smoke. The virus that attacked the uniform genome wiped out 95% of the human population in a single decade. Crystal cities and skyscrapers that once touched the stratosphere are now cold graves, swallowed by vines and moss. The survivors, isolated, desperate clusters, fled. They ran from the deadly metropolises, seeking refuge at the planet's extremes to avoid infection. Some burrowed deep underground. Some sailed into the open ocean. Some climbed the highest peaks. Isolation began. And in that isolation, time began to reshape the human form. Let us descend 5,000 meters beneath the surface, into ancient lava tubes and forgotten geothermal bunkers. Here, darkness is eternal. Meet Homo sapiens subterra. After 50,000 years without sunlight, their eyes have transformed. They are massive, occupying nearly half the face, with pitch-black pupils capable of capturing the faintest photons from bioluminescent fungi. Their skin is pale white, translucent like cave fish, as melanin is no longer necessary in the dark. They are short, with compact skeletal frames for easy movement through narrow tunnels. But do not let that fragile appearance deceive you. Their hearing is so acute they can detect the heartbeat of a mouse from 100 meters away. They have forgotten spoken language. Underground, loud sounds can cause cave-ins. They communicate via soft clicks, echolocation, and a primitive form of telepathy aided by technological remnants implanted by their ancestors. They are a collective, a hive mind, where privacy is an alien concept. Meanwhile, on the vast ocean, another branch of humanity chose the opposite path. As rising sea levels swallowed the continents, refugees on floating cities were forced to adapt to a semi-aquatic life. Meet Homo sapiens Pelagius. They no longer have legs for running. Their leg bones have shortened, and their feet have turned into broad paddles with thick webbing between the toes. Their chests have expanded to double the normal size to house massive lungs, allowing them to hold their breath underwater for hours. Underneath their sleek, thick, blubber-lined skin, evolved to withstand the ocean's chill, they possess a third eyelid, the nictitating membrane, to protect their eyes from salt water. They build no houses. They live as nomads on artificial coral reefs growing upon the skeletons of ancient sunken skyscrapers. They are strong, wild, and free. But they traded away one precious thing: fire. Underwater, without fire or metallurgy, their civilization stalled at the level of stone and fishbone tools. They are the kings of the ocean, yet primitive in technology. Year 100,000. A massive seismic event tore open the ceiling of a subterranean cavern, revealing a passage to the coastline. For the first time in hundreds of millennia, the underground people and the sea people met under the harsh sunlight. It should have been a touching reunion of lost brothers. It was not. The underground people squinted their sensitive eyes, terrified of the massive, sleek-skinned creatures crawling up from the sea. The sea people looked at the tiny, pale beings trembling in the shadows with the curiosity of a predator. They looked at each other. They observed each other. But they did not recognize each other. In their eyes, there was no empathy. Only the alienation of two completely distinct species. The clicks of one meant nothing to the howls of the other. Humanity, the name that once represented a unified species, is now merely a common noun of the past. We are no longer us. The Great Divergence is complete. Earth is now a biological playground, more diverse and brutal than ever before. There is no longer a king of all species. There are only divergent tribes fighting for survival in their own distinct territories. But deep within the genetic code of both the Subterra and the Pelagius, an ancient sequence still sleeps. A code about curiosity, about the starry sky, and about conquest. And when a third force, the descendants of those who fled to space 1,000,000 years ago, returns to Earth, the real war begins. The era of construction, 500,000 years. 500,000 years. 500,000 revolutions around the sun. If you were to view Earth from space at this moment, you would no longer recognize the blue marble of the past. Encircling the planet is a brilliant silver halo, the climate ring. The children who abandoned Earth on generation ships during the collapse have returned. They did not return to live off their mother. They returned to repair her. With the technology of a Kardashev Type 1 civilization, they have tamed the wild beast named nature. No more random storms. No more uncontrolled ice ages. Earth is no longer a feral rock. It is a sophisticated biological machine, a garden manicured down to the very molecule. Gaze up at the sky. those beings gliding effortlessly through the clouds without wings. They are Homo sapiens celestis. They have transcended the boundaries of organic biology. Their bodies stand over 3 meters tall, slender, and faintly glowing. They possess no mouths, for spoken language is too sluggish for the speed of their thoughts. They communicate via a direct consciousness network. Their genome is no longer a fixed double helix of amino acids, but fluid, programmable code. They do not need to adapt to the environment, because the environment obeys them. With a mere wave of a hand, they can raise a mountain or soothe a tsunami. They are gods of flesh and nanocarbon. But beneath that magnificence lies a cold truth. The celestial people look down upon the surface, where the underground people and the sea people reside. They do not exterminate these primitive brethren. They do something far crueler. They conserve them. Earth is divided into strictly controlled, wild zones. The celestial people observe the bloody survival wars of the sea people with the emotionless curiosity of a scientist watching ants in a glass terrarium. They intervene only when necessary to balance the ecosystem, but they never communicate. To the celestial people, these species are living heritage, walking museums, reminding them of the fragile origins they shed long ago. But what is the price of omnipotence? When you can shift your form at will, does identity still exist? When you are immortal and in total control, does surprise, the spice of life, hold any meaning? They are lonely gods, ruling over a perfect paradise of their own creation, yet they seem to have forgotten the shivering, the fear, and the passion of being human. And time never stops. The 1 million year mark is approaching, bringing with it the final question for the existence of consciousness. The post-corporeal era, 1 million years. 1 million years. The constellations in the sky have shifted beyond recognition. If a 21st century astronomer were to gaze up at this firmament, they would be utterly lost. But the greatest change lies not in the stars, but in the observers themselves. Homo sapiens celestis, the celestial people, have ruled Earth for 500,000 years in peace and prosperity. They reached the pinnacle of physical existence. They no longer age. They no longer succumb to disease. They command every atom within their own bodies. Yet, they hit an invisible wall that no technology could breach, the stagnation of immortality, and the confinement of the flesh. They realized that no matter how advanced a silicon and nanobody might be, it remains a cage. It is still bound by gravity, by time dilation, by spatial separation. To evolve one step further, they had to do the unthinkable. And so, the most significant event in the history of life on Earth commenced. We call it the Great Ascension. It was not a migration to another planet. It was a migration to another state of existence. Billions of celestial people gathered at energy spires along the equator. In unison, they initiated the final protocol. Their magnificent physical forms began to disintegrate, dissolving into shimmering clouds of nanodust. But their consciousness did not die. It was uploaded, fused into the planetary energy grid. They relinquished their eyes to perceive through the entire atmosphere. They abandoned their legs to travel at the speed of light within the quantum network encircling the Earth. They are no longer separate individuals. They merged, becoming a colossal superconsciousness. Humanity, in the biological sense, has officially gone extinct. Humanity, in the spiritual sense, has become the Earth itself. They have become Gaia. As the light of the ascension faded, silence blanketed the surface. The skyscrapers, the floating cities, the climate control engines, all remain, but their masters have vanished into the void. Beneath the ground and under the oceans, the fearful eyes of the underground people and the sea people gaze upward. In their primitive minds, they understand nothing of consciousness uploading or quantum ascension. They see only one thing: the gods have departed. For the first time in 500,000 years, the preserves are unlocked. The energy barriers vanish. This vast, fertile, and perfectly terraformed world is now unclaimed. The sea people crawl onto the golden artificial sands. The underground people creep out from the dark caverns to touch the warm, auto-regulated sunlight. They look upon the abandoned megastructures with awe and reverence. They will deem them sacred relics. They will forge new religions, weave new myths about a race of giants who once walked upon the clouds. And most importantly, they will begin again. They will invent fire. They will invent the wheel. They will look up at the stars and wonder, who am I? A great circle has closed. Those who came before have transformed into gods. Those who remain inherit paradise to begin a new cycle of suffering and glory. Earth no longer needs a protector. She has new children to nurture. We have traveled a long road. From the rejection of the frail biological body to the obsession with perfection, the collapse of civilization, and finally, the ascension into energy gods. 1 million years of history, or just a mad dream? The truth is, that future has never existed. But its seed lies right in your pocket. The lonely, celestial people, or the monsters beneath the earth, they were not born from void. They were born from the very smallest choices we make today. Every time we choose convenience over nature, every time we surrender our thinking to algorithms, we lay a brick for the path leading to the machine age. Look down at your hand. It is the only tool that can rewrite destiny. Do you hold technology, or does technology hold you? Will we be the proud ancestors of gods, or the authors of our own doom? The answer does not lie in 1 million years. The answer begins right now.